I'm so much taller than you.
Yeah, what the hell?
Hi, welcome to Easy Update.
Hi.
This is a weekly show. This week I'm joined by Jason Wishnov.
Hi, everyone. That's me. I'm Jason Wishnov. It's a pleasure to be here. What's up?
And since we're not doing Mysterious Monsters this month because Huber is recovering and grieving with his family over the loss of his brother, which is very tragic, and we want to support him by giving him as much time as he needs to be with family, so we're not doing Mysterious Monsters this month. Maybe not next month. We'll see when it comes back. Yeah, however long Huber needs is what we're going to give him. But Kyle had the idea, actually, that I thought was a pretty good one, that Jason and I could talk about a little of the background of how the show came to be.
Yep.
And, like, our experiences and thoughts with how it's going so far. So basically, Huber had always had a dream to do a game show. And years ago, I had thought to myself, like, well, yeah, that's a great idea.
He's got that energy that
he has that energy.
Yeah, he's got big game show energy.
You don't act like a scientist. You're more like a game show host.
Is what his mother said at age 3.
Yeah, but so I was like, okay, we got to make this guy a game show. And after we got this studio, it became more possible. And one day, Jason and I were hanging out at my house, and I was just like, I want to make a game show for Huber.
Yeah, I was just like, what? Because at the time it was a stretch goal, and I didn't even know. It was like, what are the stretch goals beyond the studio? Now that you guys are finally,
I don't think we'd announced the stretch goals until after we had the idea for the game show.
Also,
or had we? I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, we made it a stretch goal. But yeah, but anyway, and then we were just kind of talking like, what could we do?
Yeah,
and you said,
yeah, we were like hanging out on your couch, and you were saying about a game show, like what kind of unique you said it definitely wanted to be a trivia game show.
Trivia for sure.
So I was like, well, what kind of unique sort of thing can you put on this? And I have always had a strong personal belief that everything on this planet can be made or combined with RPG elements. Like you could make going to the bathroom an RPG experience if you really wanted to. I'm not saying we should.
You totally could.
You could.
It worked in Scott Pilgrim.
Exactly. So I was like, what if we kind of like made this into some kind of RPG? And we initially threw out a whole bunch of ideas. We were talking about like experience points and leveling up.
Yeah.
And going on this like journey.
Oh yeah, we thought about leveling up, the contestants leveling up and like going through like areas.
And like maybe there was some kind of weird continuous thing where like over numerous episodes people would like join a certain faction, like almost like Pokemon Go or something.
It was way overwrought.
Yeah, it was super.
And Huber was like a king.
Yeah, King Huber. That was our of Huberia.
That
was our initial theming. But and then I don't know. Like we were sort of just like I was brainstorming like idly. Like I didn't really think we would do it. But then I think you were kind of into it, and then you like also kind of briefly talked to Huber, and you were like, hey. Yeah. What would you think about this?
I remember on the first day we came up with the idea that it would be monsters as the categories.
Right.
I remember that. And then we were like, the categories are the monsters, and then you ask them, you answer questions, and it does damage to them, and if you get it wrong, you get that. Like we figured that part out immediately.
Right.
Or like in the first time we talked about it.
And then so he showed interest.
Yeah, he was all about it.
He was all about it. So then I think we were like, hey, let's just like go to like a coffee shop / bakery or wherever we went.
Le Pain Quotidien.
That's how you pronounce it in French. And we went there, and this was like classic Los Angeles creative coffee house meeting. It's what we all dream about when we move to LA. But we basically just sat there for like 3 hours and just like tossed out ideas. And initially, because I was thinking about the experience point system, and I was thinking about, we want gold and all this stuff. And I was like, how that's like really complicated. And then Ian, of course.
I just went Dark Souls.
And I was like, oh yeah. Dark Souls. So
yeah, so no separate XP and gold.
Right.
They became one thing.
So, the gold is the winner. You get gold for killing monsters, and you also use that as currency. So it creates that classic short-term versus long-term gain. It creates like this element. Some players, don't want to mess with items. Some players don't want to bother, but other players like Kyle want to just like try and break the game.
He wanted every item,
every single item.
It almost worked. It almost worked.
I actually think that like we've done a good job at least with like making those both valid strategies.
Yeah.
Like you really can win the game either way. if, obviously you have to be somewhat good at trivia, choose your categories wisely.
Yeah.
But like we've seen, initially you were really worried. I think just maybe by coincidence, the first couple winners of the game all had
the hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, we were
I was
like,
just
that
gonna
might
say
be
that.
OP.
Yeah.
But then later, some people that didn't have the hammer won, and I was like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of our like design phase, and we were feeling pretty good about it at that point.
We felt pretty good. We like wrote the whole document down, all the
GDD,
rules,
the old
game design document. Yeah.
That's what we in the biz call it.
Talking to the microphone.
I don't know, whatever. It's fine. It's cool. But then it was time to like, all right, we gotta like make this thing because there are two phases to this particular game. Every game show is gonna need a set and stuff and things, but in our case, we need like a video game backend.
Yeah.
And I've made a few of those before.
He makes video games.
I make those every so often. So I just sort of, whenever I had free time, I would just bust open Unity. And and pixel art also. So
Yeah,
like,
we needed that.
I'm not an artist, so we did
Yeah.
need to at least invest something in assets. And you should tell the story about the pixel art because that actually is pretty funny.
So I knew the name of the artist that I wanted, and I got it from Kyle. Somehow, some wires got crossed or something, and like I got a different name.
You contacted the wrong person.
I contacted the wrong person and showed them someone else's art. But then I was like giving them examples, and then I showed them art that I thought was theirs but was somebody else's. And then they were like, well, that's not mine, but I kind of get the idea. And what we got back, I just love. I adore it. And like I had given them like Suikoden as sort of like a jumping off point because I think the art in that is incredible. And I think that Toby just did an amazing job with the monsters. And like it was one of those happy accidents where I was like, well, I'm glad I got I'm sort of glad I got you. I mean, I'm sure the other person would have done great too, but like this is just, it was so perfect. I love it. I love the art. Yeah.
And as someone who's like, who's been in those kind of low budget situations before, like going out to a community, not that so many of Easy Allies community is so incredibly talented, but it's always a bit of a grab bag. It's always like, you might, some people, because you normally we would like hire a professional in the industry who's done a ton of pixel art before, but we wanted to obviously not only involve the community but keep costs relatively low. And the art we get back is like incredible.
It was amazing.
Like you guys have probably seen it. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
And so with that in hand, I was able to kind of like really quickly make a mock-up, and it didn't have all the features. I think we put up the very first playtest.
First playtest we put up Patreon exclusive just because it wasn't there yet.
Right, we didn't want like the wide community to be like.
And like a lot of people were like, well, you should have put the gameplay up for everyone to like, because back then we had still had it as a goal on Patreon. So like people were like, well, you would raise more funds if you let everybody see it. And I was like, I don't know, because it was pretty rough.
It's pretty rough. And I was like pretending to not know the questions that I had written. We didn't have a third contestant. So I thought at that point, I was like, well, this is a $55K goal.
Right.
And I'm really excited about this game, but like, I don't know when that'll happen. So I just sort of like put it out of my mind. I was like
never, maybe?
I don't know, 55K is a lot, and, and then it was like January where you contacted me and you were like, you know what? We're just gonna do it anyway, or
well,
something.
because we changed the idea. So we were trying to brainstorm what we wanted to do for Easy Allies Year 3 live show.
Right.
And I had said, well, hey, we could just do Mysterious Monsters. And that was after we had done the playtest to try to garner interest to get the funding.
Yeah. And the interest was there. Like people were very positive even with the very rough playtest. I knew that people would like it. It's just that like we were still, I think at that point, over 5K away from 55K.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to get up there.
I think we were at like 52.
Yeah.
At that time.
But basically you were like, well, we really want something cool to do for the 3rd anniversary. And Huber was like really in on this idea. And we got a lot of good feedback. So like, we're just going to do it. We're just going to go for it. So at that point, I kind of like put the rest of the work in, finished it out, polished it up, sound effects, animations, making sure bugs were fixed, though, as we later learned, not all of them were fixed.
Not all of them were fixed.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And then when we decided we were just gonna do the show, I was like, okay, well, I want to have like set elements and stuff,
physical elements.
And so my friends Gabby, Marissa, and I went and I bought a whole bunch of materials, and I knew what I wanted the shop to look like in my head. And I don't know if I'm bad at describing things or if like people just weren't picturing it. I tried to describe it to like my friend AJ who makes props, and he was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I like tried to explain it to everybody else. And then finally I just like went to IKEA and looked for a shelf that would like fit the shape I had in my mind.
Did you succeed?
Yeah, and I bought it, and that's the one. And I wanted like a bigger base with a hutch on top, and we could mount the sign on top of it.
And then Gabby and Marissa
made the sign. Yeah. I went out and bought wood and like stain and everything, and then they painted the sign and did a great job. They actually assembled that IKEA thing too.
Yeah. So also this
which later broke.
Well,
not
it's
their
IKEA.
fault.
It's IKEA.
But
it's also worth noting that when Huber said he wanted to do a game show, he basically gave us full creative control with one particular exception. Huber said, "I want Lucky Hit."
Oh yeah.
Huber said, "I want to have a pachinko style, Shenmue style Lucky Hit." So that was like a really required part of the design. So we ended up.
Did he say he wanted it, or did I go like, we have to do this because of Huber?
I thought he said he wanted it, but
I don't
did you
remember.
just say?
I don't remember which it was, but I remember it was just always a given that somehow we had to get
that was just part of it. It had to be.
Pachinko Lucky Hit had to be a part of it.
So then I think you ordered that.
I looked into building one myself.
Yeah. It's a little tedious.
Which turned out to just wouldn't have been a good idea. And then I looked on Etsy and I found the shop that we got it from.
Yeah.
Which is in the credits of the show. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name right this second. But yeah, and he did a great job, and I love that thing.
Yeah, thing's great. We did have some issues with it. We'll get to that.
Well, it's let's just get to it right now. It's
okay,
like very weird. Because
we did a test.
I tested it 200 times.
Ian tested it. So sample size n equals 200, which should be enough.
Yeah.
And when you tested it,
when I tested it, it was like, I don't know, like 16 or something. Like
out of
it was
200,
out of 200,
which is
were hyperstrikes.
And hyperstrikes, they're very powerful. They give you a question correct automatically.
Yeah.
And then you can combine that with double damage, and then on a kill shot, it's a whole thing.
Which we don't tell people to do.
Right.
Just either people figure that combo out or they don't.
A lot of the contestants, we shot this all in a batch, basically, and they had not seen an episode. So to viewers at home, you're like, well, of course, the double damage combo. We've seen that so many times. It's so powerful. The contestants coming in didn't know it existed and had to figure it out on their own. It's unfortunate that all of our friends seem to be smart and did figure it out.
Yeah.
And also, for whatever reason, we set this thing up in the studio. Nothing changed. Same board, same
And also,
angle.
I forgot to mention, I specifically had the guy on Etsy because I needed 7 slots or whatever, and I had to make the middle one smaller. It's smaller than the other ones.
And yet
somehow,
one episode had 5 hyperstrike drops.
It
was wild.
The live show had so many.
Oh yeah, the live show also, man.
And the only thing we changed was I added those cards to the bottom, but
can't have.
I don't see how that could have a real effect except for bounce outs, but those didn't increase much, and it's just it's. I guess a testament to randomness that it
I don't know. Every time a hyperstrike dropped, whether we're in the control room or we're backstage, we cringe.
We're just ah!
We're just sitting there no, oh god. We felt physical pain when the hyperstrikes would keep coming out because that's not really meant to be a common.
Right.
It's supposed to be this really
it's
rare.
It's supposed to be one an episode maybe.
The super rare drop,
And like you said, we shoot them in batches of 3 or 4 if we can do it. And so it may seem like we're ignoring feedback for 3 months.
I know.
We're not. We just shot all 3 at once.
We shot everything at once. So the first episode was right before GDC. We shot it a couple of days before. I remember just because I had to go to GDC. Then a week later was the Mysterious Monster Mash, and then 2 days after that, we shot episodes 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
So there was this 10-day period where every single episode that you've ever seen of Mysterious Monsters was shot, and 7 of those days between episodes 1 and 2, I was up in San Francisco at GDC, and I didn't really have much time to work on it. So literally between episodes 2, 3, and 4, which for you guys was a month or more, we have 30 minutes. The guests are here, right? They have stuff to do. They can't wait forever. I'm frantically coding. I'm frantically trying to fix things here, freaking out. And you can see like between 2, 3, and 4, things smooth out a little bit. We took,
we definitely changed a few things.
but like it was super, super, super chaotic. And obviously our apologies that we weren't able to integrate feedback into those episodes, but we have been listening. We've been
taking notes.
We've been taking notes. And
in editing, I can add things that I can do in post. Like I added the lower third that has their money and name and everything up the whole time. And then in the episode after I introduced that, I didn't like how low it was because on older TVs the edge would get cut off. So I had to like raise it a little bit. And and stuff like that we can iterate. But yeah, we can't fix the Lucky Loot board 3 months ago.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway, going forward, whenever we begin shooting again, we have patch notes. We have implemented some stuff.
Lots of patch notes.
Patch notes.
And we tested it.
Again.
We tested
that board. We made a change to the board.
8%?
It was
now
with the test. It was like it was 7.5 or 8%.
Yeah.
We were just
for a hot second. We were at 6.66%, and I was like, I hope we maintain.
Yeah, can we? Let's
just because it's monstery, whatever. But like, no, but it's like 8% chance of getting a hyper strike now.
That's fine. You would expect.
Yeah.
You would. I think we did the math. You would expect like 1.4, 1.5 hyper strikes per episode at that rate, based on the number of kills and drops that occur.
Right.
And like, I'm cool with that.
So like 1 an episode maybe is like where we want to be.
Yeah. And if
we didn't see, a lot of people were like nerf the hyper strike double damage combo.
We talked about it.
We talked about it at length, and I think we both agreed that we like the combo. We like that it is possible. It's just hyper strikes are happening too much.
Right. Like it should be that combination itself should be rare. And in theory, anytime someone gets a hyper strike, the optimal play would be immediately buy a double damage, maybe even the Amulet of the 3, and then wait for a killing blow. But also you got to make sure, like, you might have to use Analyze to figure out when that might be. You have to pick the right monster. Maybe it might be out of sequence. Like, it's still not a guaranteed thing, and you want to try and maximize that as much as possible. But again, like, a lot of the contestants coming in, they haven't watched the previous episodes, and also keep in mind, it is a lot different at home watching this stuff and then being up here under the lights.
Like Huber always says, the lights. It's the lights.
He's not just saying that.
He's not wrong. Like your brain kind of just goes like, huh?
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's much harder in person than it is at home, and
And like the show is certainly up front. The first couple episodes, the show was too hard. Like we actually intentionally infused the show with some really easy questions. Like there was one where it was like complete the sequence 2, 4, 6, 8 blank. Like we intentionally infused the show with some really easy questions to try to like fix the curve.
That question actually is. It's funny you bring that up because that's one of my favorite moments because Huber goes, complete the sequence 2, 4, 6, 8, and then Ben buzzes in, and then Huber goes Ben, and then he goes immediately 10. So it's like Ben 10 was just the
Ben
answer.
10.
But yeah, like in the first episode, there were some questions that were just like no, like no one's getting them,
right?
And it's like it's not like great television. Like obviously you want some questions that no one's gonna know, but like when that happens consistently over and over again, it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating for the contestants.
And it's like, and we realized it's more fun to watch tight games where everyone's doing pretty well than it is to watch a hard game where like
people are struggling.
Yeah, and it's just kind of sad.
And we did have one of our early episodes had some early struggles.
Yeah.
Luckily with that one, like we had an incredible final round.
The comeback was really
comeback
good.
was incredible in that one. But I think the best episode we've shot, no disrespect to any of our other contestants, I love all of our episodes, was the most
Episode
recent
4,
where it was longer than the others, but it was
it's like 50-something.
So close. Everyone was constantly within like 30 gold. Like it was super tense, but also weirdly friendly at the same time.
They were helping each other.
Yeah.
And like when a contestant is coming on the show, we tell them, we explain all the rules, we explain what all the items do, but we don't give them any strategies explicitly.
Right.
We'll say like potions can be used at any time on any target.
That's all we say.
That's all we say.
We don't give them anything beyond
and
that.
like any target.
And by the way, I will say this, parse that how you will. There are strategies that we know about in Mysterious Monsters that have not been used
that
yet.
no one's done yet.
And no one's done yet. So
and they're hilarious.
Yeah, we really want them to happen. You guys can speculate about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to say it too much. But yeah, and like so we definitely tried to make the game a little easier.
Well, and and also like we have to give contestants, we have to assume they don't know the rules of the game, and we have to give them the full rundown before the cameras start rolling. That process takes like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it takes
15,
a
20
hot
minute.
minute.
Like there's just even
I
though
kind of want to make a
streamlined it,
video that just explains everything.
so we can just hit play and just go.
Well, and it would be like optimized, you know.
Yeah,
It would like just
you can cut
you know,
it properly.
Yeah.
But like it's just the rules of the game. You know, you can learn it organically as you watch, and over 4 episodes, you guys absolutely probably know what's up. But like for a completely new player, it's like, whoa, okay.
It's a lot.
There's all these items. There's drops. There's gold. There's hit points. Headshots. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So.
And like I think the nice thing about it, like you said earlier, is like if you like understand what one of the items does and just are confident in a trivia category, you can probably do pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's another thing. That's the idea that I think mostly works. The idea with being able to choose which monster you're facing, the idea there is you pick a monster that you think you're confident at.
Right.
And by and large, I think most of our contestants are doing that, and I think that's a success.
Well, the allies are picking those video game categories.
They do the video, yeah.
Which is, and we actually made a slight adjustment. There's 14 random categories, but we actually kind of hacked it such that the 3 video game themed categories will always appear. We know, Easy Allies obviously is a video game focused thing, but we also wanted the contestants coming in who may not have such a wealth of video game knowledge to be able to choose interesting categories that they're good at.
Technically, if you're knowledgeable in video games, you probably have a slight edge, just given that you know Modern Miscreation, Retro Rampager, and the games industry will always be there.
And even if you're not picking those categories, one thing that actually I was really happy about last episode was the offering of Uneasy Alliance help really comes into play, you know, and I just be like, oh yeah, like I wouldn't choose that, but I know the answer and I can offer my help you out and pick up 40, 50, 60 gold just like that, not on my turn. Like that's huge. Yeah. So having that, even if you're not picking it, that base knowledge is helpful, but I think players have won without that. I think Pam is a good example.
Yeah.
Pam, I don't know how much
she didn't like buy anything either.
Yeah, I don't think she bought
that
anything.
episode. Nobody bought she might have bought the Call of Consistency, I think.
She did actually.
Yeah.
I remember her because in the final round she was picking that up.
Yeah, she had that.
But like,
bonus.
I think each episode has had its own flavor.
Yeah.
It's had its own like sort of.
Well, and different contestants bring different stories to it and different like kind of arcs to it, and it's really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Like how it shakes out with different personalities too, because like the contestants' mood and personalities really affects how the game goes.
Yeah, like coming into this, I thought that the mechanics would define everything.
Right.
But in reality, what makes a good Mysterious Monsters episode are the trivia questions, which we've just kind of taken over writing because we just have fun doing them.
Jason and I wrote a batch of them before we couldn't shoot this month. We spent like I don't know
8 hours.
Yeah,
like, we just like
we
hung
started
out
at like 3 and ended at like midnight or something.
We just like hung out for like 9 hours and just wrote a zillion questions,
a bunch of questions,
including the trickster questions, which I'm not giving any away. Oh boy, they were getting real weird around midnight.
we were going in order alphabetically, I guess, by monster, and trickster was toward the end.
Yeah,
and it was like 11 p.m. and we'd been writing trivia all day, and we were getting like really weird, theoretical meta stuff.
Like one that I thought of today, but won't be in the trickster question, was just it would pop up, and it's like, "Hey, where did Ian go?" And Ian would like,
and then you just like see me run by,
run across the thing, and the contestants would be like, "What?" I don't know. We were getting weird.
We were getting real bizarre.
But there are some gems in there that I think you'll very much enjoy.
There are a few that I'm very happy with.
But like the quality of the trivia question,
and that's not to say we won't have other writers still, and like there are still a bunch of questions from
the
Sophia
previous
writers,
us.
Sophia
Sophia
and
helped us
Alex
with TV,
and everyone,
and Alex was helping.
Still in there too. So we haven't gotten through all of those, and we'll have other writers in the future. But like, we just had a day, and we're like, let's write.
It was fun. I think it was fun.
Yeah, I liked it.
So that, and then your guests, of course, we've had great guests.
Yeah,
we have plenty.
Great
guests coming.
I had some wonderful guests lined up for the coming episodes.
That's all right. We'll get them.
We'll get them back. They're all very understanding. They'll come back. One episode I have lined up that had no allies in it, but I think is going to be really good.
But it'll still be great.
Yeah. And yeah, there will be some without allies, some with more allies in it. Who knows?
We're gonna have also maybe a tournament of champions in
Maybe
the future.
someday, yeah.
I think we might want to do that.
We have a lot of ideas, and like we've been addressing the patch notes. Like, we're gonna leave a lot for Huber to explain in detail. But yeah, like
I think
getting to know contestants more, some more stuff at the end. I've got a really funny bit for the end.
Yeah.
I
think that
for the winner,
we're not quite to like 2.0, right? Like I'm not saying that we're like, doing a major overhaul, but I think in the future there are ideas. Of course, there are new items that might be brought in, items that might be removed. We might have interesting temporary monster categories that we could do. Like there's a lot of interesting things where we could go with the show to keep it fresh over time. But really, there's only been 4 episodes, so like I wanna ride this train a little longer before we start really messing with things.
Well, in the live show, like
in the live
show, we don't consider an episode. It was more just like a live event that was kind of fun and like so stressful.
Oh man,
He was tell him.
So I had to drive. So I was at GDC that week, and I really
which is in San Francisco,
and I had to really be there the night before for business reasons. So I was like, it's cool, it's no big deal. I'm gonna leave at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever, and the drive is approximately 6.5 hours down the I-5. And I would get the live event didn't start till like 8,
7 or 8,
and I was like,
Doors were 7, show was 8 or something.
So I've got 9 or 10 hours to make this drive, which almost always just takes 6.5, no big deal. So all of a sudden, I'm more than halfway home, plenty of time, and I've got Google Maps open, and all of a sudden the ETA starts rising catastrophically, like
exponentially,
like every 30 minutes. Or sorry, every 30 seconds, it would say, like, if it was 2 hours and 24 minutes, it'd be like 2 hours and 51 minutes, 3 hours and 18 minutes, 3 hours. And I'm like, what is happening? And so I actually frantically called Ian and Damiani, were both on the phone with me. I'm like semi-panicking at this point.
We were here. It was like 3 in the afternoon or 4. We were here packing stuff up into vans to take it to the event.
Yeah. And then they did a little bit of research, and they found out that on the I-5 that day, there was something that they called a mass casualty incident, where like 53 cars like got in this unbelievable massive pileup and terrifying, like completely shut down the I-5 entirely, completely impassable. So,
thankfully, we found out later that no one was killed.
A horse was killed.
A horse was killed, and an infant was injured.
Yeah.
Which is bad, but at least
Yeah.
They didn't. At first, they thought it was like massive people had been killed in this thing, and luckily that was not the case. I mean, sorry for the horse, which is really intense, but still.
Yeah. So I had to. The I-5 is kind of the only way at a lot of points. So I had to detour like 3.5 hours out of the way. At this point, like I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like if I had not shown up, I don't know what you guys would have done. I'm not sure you could have run it, or you could have run an old version.
It was weird because I was there setting everything up. I was running it off my laptop. The internet wasn't working. I had to, it was really weird. Oh, because where we had to put the computer, the PC, because we used the control room PC tower. Because where I had to put it, there were no Ethernet ports on the stage. So the computer couldn't get internet. So I had luckily just got a new laptop. So I had that taking their Wi-Fi at the venue and then using it as a bridge through the Ethernet port on my laptop into that PC to give it internet because the game needs internet to feed the questions to Huber's tablet.
And then I had a new build that I like desperately needed to get to you, but I'm in the middle of nowhere and I wasn't sure if I was going to get there in time. So I used my phone's like tethering out in the middle of nowhere. Like, so, but I'm like this is very dangerous. I shouldn't have done this. I'm sitting there driving in the passenger seat. I have my laptop. I'm like zipping I had to build the executable in Unity, zip it up
because he had fixed a bunch of bugs.
I'd fixed a bunch of bugs
for the live event that we wanted to use because the build was a little unstable and kept going down.
Yeah, which would have been very bad at a live event. If it's here, it's like not the worst thing in the
world.
Right,
we just reset. It's fine.
But like out there would have been crazy. So I'm sitting there like driving, and then my phone is like uploading like 130 megabytes.
Never do this.
Never do this. It's very bad.
But he uploaded the game to Google Drive and sent me a link, and I was like, oh, okay. So I got this thing onto the computer, and then you got there at like we were going live at 8, and you got there at like 7:55 5
Yeah,
or
like
something. It was
5
like
minutes
literally.
before, people are coming in.
And I had everything set up, and then you had to help me get his tablet running, I think, was the thing I
Yeah.
hadn't figured out yet.
Right, how to get Huber's tablet.
And then so we got it all running, and then, the live show happened, but then
I'm real sweaty and gross. I'm just
it
like,
was all a disaster. And then, like, weird bugs kept happening that we thought we had fixed.
oh, yeah, this part.
And I was like, man, I thought, and you were like, we squashed that. I know, I fixed that. And then so, like, things kept happening. The internet at the venue was all bizarre, and like the tablet stopped working halfway
And then we
through.
realized that somehow we were running the old build for the first like round or two.
Yeah.
And I was like, we had to make a decision. We were like, the third round is kind of the most technically complex because of the buzzer system and the hardware going on. And I was like, I think we should swap out builds right now. And you were like, I don't know if we should do that. We're in the middle of a game. And I'm like, we kind of have to, or this is not going to work. So mid-game.
Because that old build, like, it was like a 50-50 chance if the third round would even work.
Right. So it's like, we made the executive decision to switch builds mid-game in a live show during the, I think Jones was singing the Pokemon song or something.
Yeah.
And I'm in the back frantically trying to save and then re-enter
Or
all
maybe
the
it was during my
information for the
karaoke,
players.
I think. Yeah.
And it worked. The
It
third
worked.
round was flawless.
Yeah.
But that was a crazy experience.
That
And
was-
then 2 days after that, we shot all 3 episodes.
We shot episodes. Yeah.
So it was wild. But, most of the bugs at that time were fixed. I fixed a few more in the meantime. We made a few changes. We made a few improvements, and you're going to see those in future episodes.
Yeah. And then that's the fun thing is it's like, still a living
Right.
show,
like-
and like we're always going to be changing and updating and fixing and making things better and more fair. But yeah, the nice thing, the thing that feels really good about the show, besides just Huber being so good at
He's so good.
at hosting it,
He's so good at it.
he's just so fun. And like we intentionally, people like, I don't know if people know,
yeah.
somebody point fingers at Huber for like, oh yeah, and for that latest batch of episodes, like one of the cameras, I just like recorded 2 of the wide shot and not Huber's close up.
Yeah.
So I had to cut her on that, and like only a few people put Huber on blast because it just looks like he's looking at the wrong camera all the time. But it's like, no, that's my fault. But we've started like intentionally putting words that are hard to pronounce in questions.
A couple of people have been like, you guys should really tell Huber how to pronounce these words, and we're like,
No,
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 absolutely
no.
not. We love when he doesn't know the word. We think
my favorite moment in any episode of Mysterious Monsters is when Huber just like looks in the camera and is just like,
yeah, I don't know. Because we're in the control room like cackling.
we're just like laughing.
We're laughing, and he's out here like he's like, I don't know what that is. One thing I've loved about Huber's hosting is him. Because we kind of it sort of started off not this way, but he sort of started giving out gold randomly.
Yeah, that was not planned.
We
That's
didn't
just
plan
Huber
that.
being
Huber
Huber.
just started giving people like 5 gold for you, 5 gold for good vibes.
Yeah,
and we're
5
like,
gold for everyone.
Yeah.
And then AJ was like, it's almost as though that didn't matter.
Yeah,
It was really
but
funny.
I think that stuff adds a lot.
I love it.
It's really really fun.
Yeah.
Huber's
Huber's unpredictable and it's great.
And we did briefly, just for a second, literally no disrespect to Huber, but we were like, should we get a temporary host to just make sure? And the answer is no.
No.
Huber is the only person.
Like
that
we
can
thought
do
about like the wizard,
the wizard
or like
would
coming in
host.
as the wizard and hosting it because we had all
Yeah.
the guests lined up and everything. And then I was just like, no,
it's-
we would never. Yeah, we can't.
like he just gives it such a unique identity and feel that I think no one else can bring properly. Like
something that I wouldn't be opposed to doing someday
is making him a contestant.
is having him be a contestant with a guest host.
but like a one-off, and he'd
as
still be
as
there.
like a thing,
Yeah.
like as a thing.
And he'd constantly be like, "Oh, you should stand a little closer to camera on that
Yeah.
one." No.
Actually, what would be funny is if we somehow did a batch where it was only questions written by not either of us, and then
Yeah.
it's you, me, and Huber as contestants. That would be fun.
That would actually be super fun. We would have to get a lot of questions.
It
on
would be.
board.
We'd have to have someone write like we kind of did the math, and we shoot them in 3 episode batches usually, and so that means we needed like a minimum of 22 questions for every monster.
Well, you need an absolute minimum of 18 just in case the monster is chosen all 3 games and all 6 questions are brought up, which is rare but
Yeah.
possible. And then even then, the mysterious or the monstrosity mashup monstrosity.
Mixed up monstrosity.
That's it. Mixed up monstrosity. At the end, we'll pull questions randomly from every category.
every category.
So we wanted to have a couple extras so it could pull
Even
from that
categories not in that episode.
in that episode. So we decided 22 questions each minimum for each category for a 3-episode shoot. If it is only one episode with me and Huber, it would just be like
We'd need like eight per.
But at this point, even if we didn't write the questions, you and I know every single question in the question list.
We know all of them.
We would have to get completely original questions, 8 times 14, which is 112.
He's the math boy. That's one of your magic powers. Oh, we also went through and we normalized the difficulties on all the questions because a few of them were written by other people, and they were like, some people think that their questions are harder than they are. We tend to think our questions are easier than they are.
It's hard to judge that sort of thing because, we know it. Because if we write the question, we know the answer. So, and then oftentimes, Ian will write something, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is. And Ian's like, that's a 2. And I'm like, but I don't, who is that?
And I'm like, fine, then it's a 3.
Yeah, and then we always compromise.
And, we're, space nerds.
I love space.
So we write, most of our science questions are space questions.
But that happened in the Chris Pam episode.
And Pam's a doctor.
Pam's a genius.
Yeah, she's a doctor.
But she just randomly doesn't know that much about space.
Well, and also, we didn't, write any biology questions.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that much about biology.
I was like, let's.
So Pam was like, science, I got this.
Yeah, and then it was all these space questions that we were like, oh, these are no problem. And then they were all like, I don't know. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. Just so
we have our biases.
We have biases when it comes to stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we're more aware of that now.
You live and you learn.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is what I feel most proud of in this show is that the very fundamentals of it, even if a question is too hard or someone doesn't understand what an item does, or the damn hyperstrike keeps coming up over and over again. The very basic fundamentals seem to work and seem to be balanced.
I agree.
Which I think, that was the stuff I was most worried about. If the pricing was so wrong that, if you got one item, you just always swept, or if this thing cost too much and if you ever did it you would tank, or that's the kind of stuff I was worried that we would have to be finessing for months.
Yeah, I think I don't want to
We've adjusted some stuff.
We've adjusted a little bit, 10G here, 20G there.
We did make the final question worth 150 instead of 100.
Further patch notes coming on that, by the way.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, we actually changed that again, and it's way better now. Yeah. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Ooh, the final question. I forgot about that. Oh yeah, that's gonna be weird.
I like it.
It's great.
You'll find out.
You'll find out.
But yeah, with games like this, sometimes there's this runaway effect where you change one thing, even 10 or 20G, and it creates this feedback cycle that just completely imbalances the game. Not for some reason, because we're great.
Because we're amazing.
The game seems to be somewhat self-correcting in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
If you get down early, you can kind of go for those big questions and not have to worry about the death penalty that much.
Right.
It's always
that was something we hadn't really thought about up front. Is there's no risk to dying if you have no money.
Right. So people can but I like it. I think that's a valid strategy. And I'm not sure. Maybe we can go back and check this. But I believe at no point in any of our 4 episodes was the outcome fully decided before the final question, or at least maybe one of them.
In a couple of them, I remember Chris got the final question and didn't get enough to win by it, which I'm okay with.
I'm okay with that.
I don't want it to be like a what is that rabbits game, that card game where kind of everything you do doesn't matter and then you just kill the killer bunnies or whatever. There's a card game where basically the entire game is pointless and you just do a thing at the end and then you win.
Yeah.
And I really dislike that.
But also our change will also help.
Our change will definitely help with that.
Yeah. But right, I mean it should be if someone was totally rocking in rounds 1 and 2, they shouldn't be
penalized
beaten because they didn't get the last question.
They should still win if they got the most questions right.
Yeah. So
or had really good strategy. You could probably win by answering nothing but 2s and 3s if you're really maximizing your
Well, that
items.
was that was the kind of idea behind the Cowl of Consistency, which is saying, "Hey, we're going to reward you for taking that safer path with comfortable questions that you're pretty sure you're going to get right."
Yeah.
And then we had that other path, which is I'm only going for kill shots with the Amulet of the 3. That's really all I care about.
Did we change bear hide armor into Wolf's Pelt of Perception after an episode, or did they never really see, Well, it was in the test.
It was in the test, but it wasn't in episode 1.
Okay.
We had bear's hide armor, which is similar to the hammer, where you would take 1 less damage for getting a question wrong.
But it wasn't powerful
It wasn't
enough.
powerful, and like you don't want to like a
And
player doesn't want to like buy an item anticipating they're gonna suck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you want
Yeah.
players to feel like they're getting something and then it's gonna amplify their
It wasn't
power.
like an active choice.
It wasn't an
didn't,
active
It didn't
choice.
feel. Yeah, it didn't feel active.
So we took that out and we gave the free analyze action.
which I think is really pretty good.
Yeah,
I think people sleep on that.
I
item.
think people sleep on analyze. I do think it's a little awkward, just like logistically, because the other 2 players have to turn
Someone
around.
had a suggestion though that I really want us to employ.
Is it the helmets?
A mask.
Oh, they have to
Like
like
you
hold up
a
a
thing,
mask.
but like, yeah, I
We
think
could do that.
It's a really funny idea.
That's a fun idea. We read all those comments,
we
by the
read
way.
'em.
Like, definitely, leave feedback and tell us what you think. And a lot of people react very positively to these
Yeah.
episodes. Like, I'm really happy when I go into we premiere them live.
We premiere them live.
So like, I love watching people's reaction and playing along, and I
Yeah.
love reading all the
And
comments.
I'm in
stuff.
both Twitch and YouTube and like seeing the different audiences. It is kind of funny. It's like YouTube is just slightly saltier.
It's a little saltier on
It's
YouTube.
slightly saltier
I
live.
believe that. I believe
It's just kind of a funny thing I've noticed. And like not bad, everyone's still having a great time, but it's
Yeah.
just like just ever so slightly, which is interesting. It's just something I
Yeah.
noticed. But yeah, I am very proud of it, and I think I'm anxious to see where it goes. And I hope that people are enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying it. I mean, obviously, if you watch this whole thing of
Yeah.
us talking about this thing, you probably like Mysterious Monsters to some extent.
Yeah. Thanks.
I
for,
just
yeah.
what?
I was saying thanks for liking
Thanks for
it and
watching.
stuff.
Yeah. I hope that it can escape our own gravity sometime and get more
Achieve
views.
escape velocity.
Achieve escape
What's
velocity.
the delta V on that? I don't know.
Yeah, the delta V for Easy Allies is odd. I don't know if it's the YouTube algorithms or what. Like things aren't going out of our little
Gravitational
bubble.
pull.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's all right.
we need it to, but
I feel like it's got
it's got legs.
it's got legs. It's got legs.
And it's not topical, so you can just like watch this show whenever.
Right.
By and large, there are a few.
There
There are a few questions where it was like,
What was the most recent Overwatch hero? Was one of
right,
them,
and like I can't remember. I don't think that one was out of date. By the
it
there was
wasn't.
one.
It was
question-
not out of date.
Was
at that
there
time.
one question that was out of date by the time the episode aired?
I think the PlayStation 4. How many PlayStation 4 Metacritic games over 90 at time of airing had one more?
Okay,
And I forget which one. But I
that
think
moment was hilarious. That was the AJ one.
that was
right?
the AJ one.
He's just like, and then got
This
it
guy
right.
loves PlayStation.
This guy loves PlayStation. It's like no, he just doesn't care about anything.
We were
and then
back
he
there
won.
in that episode, literally high-fiving each other the
Yeah,
entire
yeah,
time. We were
that
like, "This is
episode
so
was
good."
so funny. But yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone. Hopefully you found this interesting and learned something about Mysterious Monsters.
Yeah, I don't know.
We are really having a blast with it. It's a lot of work, but it's so worth it because it's just so much fun.
It's a ton of fun. I love
And
doing it.
yeah, and I think it's going really well. So yeah, hopefully it continues to go well and everyone continues to like it.
And we don't know exactly when we'll be coming back with more
Not
episodes,
sure, yeah.
obviously, but hopefully, we eventually get some great new episodes out.
Yeah, it'll happen, and they'll be great.
Cool.
All right, well, thanks, Jason,
Thanks
for
Ian.
everything.